If you spend any time on the internet, you will have seen influencers going on and on about protein. Protein will help you lose weight. It will change your body composition. Protein will preserve your muscle. The way people talk about protein can make it seem magical. But we all know that magic isn't real, so is protein overhyped? The short answer is that you absolutely need protein to repair your muscles after exercise and for all sorts of other important bodily functions like fluid balance and immunity, cell signaling. But there's no such thing as a quick fix or miracle cure. Protein will only change your life if you engage in all sorts of other health-promoting behaviors. Keep listening to find out what protein is, how it builds muscle in your body, and how much protein you need to eat and when you need to eat it. Together, we will demystify all things protein. This is the StrongHer Collective Podcast, and I'm your host, Morgan Auberg. In this podcast, we talk about all things women's fitness, from training specifics to myth busting and everything in between. In this space, we are challenging the cultural narratives that have, for many years, told women to be smaller instead of stronger. This is a place where I cheer you on and lift you up as you cultivate your strength inside and out. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, don't forget to subscribe and rate this show. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell notification button so you never miss an episode. Let's get stronger together. Welcome back, everyone. This episode is part one of a 3-part series on protein. At first, my intention was to create a single episode about protein, but as I researched it, it got so long that I broke it into 2 and then finally 3 installments. This is part of why a new episode hasn't dropped for over a month. I went into a nerdy research spiral that I am just starting to claw my way out of. One of the perks, I guess, of ADHD and perfectionism. Today, I'm going to answer the following questions. What is protein? How does it build muscle? How much protein do you need? And when do you need to eat your protein? In part 2, we'll dive into how protein helps mitigate muscle loss when someone is trying to lose weight. And in part 3, we'll tackle the myth that protein burns fat. Spoiler, it does not. Make sure you are subscribed to this show wherever you are listening so you don't miss any of the nerdy protein discussions. So let's start by talking about what protein actually is. Many of us are familiar with the fact that protein is a macronutrient alongside carbohydrates and fats. While carbohydrates and fats are mainly used as fuel by our bodies, protein is different. Protein's primary job isn't to give you energy, it's to build and maintain your body and keep important systems running. Your body can use protein for energy, but that usually only happens when you're eating more protein than you need or when there aren't enough carbohydrates available to meet energy demands. So assuming you have enough energy from non-protein sources like carbohydrates, what is your body doing with the protein that you eat? First, your body uses protein to build and repair tissues, and that includes muscle, which is the main reason you hear about protein intake in relation to exercise and fitness. Protein also helps make enzymes that drive chemical reactions in your body. For example, amylase is an enzyme made of protein that your body makes to break down complex carbohydrates that your body cannot absorb into smaller molecules that your body can absorb and then use as energy. Protein is also used to make some hormones, including insulin, growth hormone, and hormones that regulate hunger and metabolism. Protein provides the amino acids that your brain uses to make neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, chemicals that regulate mood, focus, motivation, and stress. That doesn't mean eating more protein automatically boosts your mood or increases your focus, but without enough protein, your brain cannot make these signaling molecules efficiently. Immune cells that help you fight illnesses are made of protein, and protein helps move substrates in and out of cells. It maintains fluid balance in the body and keeps the body's pH within a healthy range. I know I said that protein isn't magic, but maybe it is after all. Protein is made of chains of amino acids. In nature, there are hundreds of amino acids, but we have 20 amino acids that appear in our bodies. Of those 20, 9 are considered essential amino acids because our body cannot make them. We can only get them from our food. When you hear about a complete protein, that is a protein source that contains all 9 essential amino acids. Generally, complete protein sources come from animal products like dairy, fish, and meat, but you can also mix plant sources together. A common example is rice and beans to get a complete protein. When you eat protein, your body breaks it down into amino acids, and those amino acids are then recombined in various proteins and used in the body, whether to build muscle, form enzymes and neurotransmitters, maintain pH and fluid balance, and so on. This process is called protein synthesis, and when our body uses protein to build and repair muscle, we call it muscle protein synthesis. And this is the big reason why protein is talked about in the fitness and wellness spaces. Protein is the building block of muscle. Let's talk about how this process works. When you challenge your muscles sufficiently, you create micro tears in your muscles. We call this muscle damage, which might sound bad, but is actually a really good thing. After a tough gym session or a long day working in the yard or whatever else you might be doing to challenge your muscles, you leave your muscles with micro tears, which signals your body to repair itself. You know that feeling of soreness that you get the day after a tough workout or physically challenging activity? That's the muscle damage. When your body detects damaged muscle, it sends the amino acids that it got from food as building blocks to form new proteins to fill in the damaged part of your muscles. If you repeat this process of muscle damage followed by repair regularly, your body will develop bigger and stronger muscles over time as it continuously repairs muscle stronger to accommodate the repeated stress. It knows that it's being used and it steps up to the challenge. But what happens if dietary protein is available but you haven't created any muscle damage? Without muscle damage from exercise, your body will still use amino acids from dietary proteins for the other essential functions like making enzymes, immune cells, and so on. Muscle is a sort of use it or lose it organ, though. If you keep your activity level the same, your muscle won't increase. If you are bedridden for weeks or an astronaut on the International Space Station for months without gravity, you will actually lose muscle because you aren't making any demands on that muscle. If you aren't getting enough food in general, then your body might even start breaking down muscle to use it as fuel to keep you alive for as long as possible. If you take nothing away from this series, remember that protein plus muscle stimulus is what increases your muscle mass. Protein isn't magic on its own, but with resistance training, that's when the magic happens. So how much protein is enough protein? If you've been confused about protein in the past, you are not alone. Whenever I Google search terms like protein recommendations women or protein recommendations athletes or protein recommendations active women, I get slightly different numbers. People who exercise more require more protein to repair their muscles compared to non-exercisers. The National Academy of Sports Medicine recommends protein ranges of 0.8 to 1.2 for no exercise, 1.2 to 2 for light to moderate exercise, and 1.5 to 2.2 for moderate to vigorous exercise. Listeners in the US, don't forget that protein recommendations almost always use body weight in kilograms, not pounds. To quickly convert your weight in pounds to weight in kilos for your own protein calculations, simply divide your weight by 2.2. Given all of this information, how are you supposed to choose a daily protein goal? My best advice is that it should not be complicated. Straightforward and easy is what will keep you consistent. The boring basics always win against complicated and cumbersome. Pick a daily protein range and do your best to hit somewhere in the range. If after 2 months you feel like you need to make a change, adjust and observe what happens. Here's how I like to think about it. I know I'm not going to get exactly the same amount of protein on a daily basis. That takes way too much measuring and calculating on my part. And while I might be able to do that for a few days, I know myself, I won't be successful long term. Instead, I set a target protein range that falls between 1.5 and 2.2 grams per kilo. This range accounts for moderate to vigorous training. And from here, I assume that it'll all more or less average out day to day. This means that the minimum amount of protein I want to get in a day is about 90 grams, and the maximum of protein is about 130 grams. In both cases, I did round up so that my numbers are easier to remember. Dividing that by 4, so 3 meals a day plus 1 snack, my target protein per meal is at least 22 grams and at most 32 grams. Anything in that range, and I'm winning. I personally don't measure food or count calories, but an awareness of my protein targets help me prioritize protein and fall somewhere within this range. I don't have any particular physique or for performance goals at the moment, but if I had a goal to build more muscle faster, aiming for the higher end of my range consistently and tracking more vigorously would make a lot of sense. Your personal goals matter a lot here, and what works for me doesn't have to work for you. If you aren't sure where to start, getting guidance from a registered dietitian would be the gold standard. I'm also a nutrition coach, which means unlike an RDA, I cannot work with disease or with allergies or plan your specific meals. That means telling you exactly what to eat and when. But we could dial in your individual approach. If that's interesting to you, reach out to me on Instagram at strongher.collective. We could talk more. I should also mention that if I have a really tough workout and I'm feeling hungry, I might add an additional protein-forward snack during the day. Maybe I had my 3 meals in 1 snack and I need a little extra. So I'm always listening to my body and trying to take cues from my body in order to really fuel myself for my workouts, for my active days, for my mental clarity. If you've been part of gym culture, you've probably heard that you need to eat protein after your workout. You may have noticed that I divided my daily protein equally into 4, 3 meals and 1 snacks, plus maybe a little extra as needed. This approach comes directly from scientific research. A meta-analysis of 20 studies for muscle growth with a combined total of 525 participants, and then 23 more studies on muscle strength with a combined total of 478 participants found no statistically significant effect of post-workout protein consumption when total daily intake is equal. This is pretty robust research because all of the studies included in the larger analysis were randomized control trials, and because the large total number of subjects, so 525 for muscle growth, 478 for the strength group. The takeaway here is that it doesn't matter so much whether or not you get your protein shake right after you work out, so long as you get protein throughout the day. And I'll link to that research in the show notes. Another cool study published in the Journal of Nutrition in 2014 demonstrates the effectiveness of protein distribution. Researchers had 8 participants experience 2 conditions: 1 week of an uneven protein distribution, so 10 grams at breakfast, 16 at lunch, and then 63 at dinner, and 1 week of an even protein distribution, so 30 grams each at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with a 30-day break between the conditions as a kind of reset. The total protein that participants ate was the same in each condition. It's just the distribution that changed. Researchers found that when eating protein spread evenly throughout the day, participants synthesized 25% more protein over 24 hours, and this happened right away and lasted all 7 days. This was a tightly controlled study that actually took muscle biopsies and blood tests to track protein synthesis, which is really the gold standard. Based on this study, it appears that spreading protein evenly is beneficial, but keep in mind that there are limitations, including the small sample size in this study, and the tightly controlled environment doesn't always match real life. They were also testing conditions for 7 days, and a longer study would be informative. But with the tightly controlled environment, having a really long study is expensive for researchers to do. The major takeaway here is that if it works to evenly distribute your protein throughout your day, there's a good chance it will increase your muscle protein synthesis. So to recap, protein isn't magic, but protein is essential. It plays a role in nearly every system in your body. And when it comes to fitness, it provides the raw materials your body needs to repair and build muscle after that muscle has been challenged. How much protein you need depends on your activity level and your goals, not influencer hype or one size fits all recommendations. For most active people, aiming for a realistic daily range and spreading protein fairly evenly across meals is both effective and sustainable. The biggest takeaway here is that protein works best when it's paired with resistance training, adequate total food intake, and consistency over time. It's not a quick fix. It's one piece of a much bigger picture. I hope that you learned something new about protein in this episode. If it sparked questions for you, I'd love to hear them. Send me a DM on Instagram and tell me what you're still confused about, what you've heard about protein that doesn't quite add up, or what's worked or not worked for you. I'm at StrongHer.collective. That's StrongHer.collective. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review if you are listening on Apple or Spotify. It really helps the show reach more strong women like you. If you're looking for one-on-one virtual training or nutrition coaching to build muscle and live your strongest life, I've linked more information below. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get stronger together.